For those of you guys who are new to my channel, I worked from about the year 2004 to about 2015 as a substitute teacher in the Chicago public high schools, primarily on the north and west side. And one thing that always really would trip me out is when I would see these girls dating guys who clearly, I mean, if you had to guess which way they're going, it's either death or jail, one of the two, like by the time they hit 25. And, these girls, like, they would tell me straight up, he's like, he's a member of this gang or he's a member of that gang. And like, I'm like, yeah, so why are you with him? And that was an attraction. One of them told me, like, I only date guys that gangbang. She told me I only date guys that gangbang. I'm telling her, like, the situation that you're going to be in, right? Not only is there an extremely significant chance that you're going to be a single mom with multiple kids by a guy who's then going to be dead or in prison, but there's a chance that you could be killed with him, like a real chance. And they weren't trying to hear it, man. You would try to tell them, like, get with somebody who's like, stuck in those books, ready to be a doctor or something. They're not trying to go for those dudes. They want to go for the street dudes. And we have a situation. A woman was with a guy who, I don't know if she knew what he was involved with or not, but she ended up getting killed with him by the traveling Vicelords street gang on the west side of Chicago. This is according to what was said on a wiretap by one of the guys who's now on trial by the feds due to his alleged involvement in this murder. Okay, and this is a guy who was a member of this Wicked Town traveling Vicelord faction whose street name is Scudder. But some of the other guys are the ones who are really the focus of this. And you got, like most gangs in Chicago now, a lot of neighborhoods where, it's like members of that gang that are mixed with members of other gangs. But they're really deep in the Garfield Park area. Okay, that's the neighborhood where I'd say they're the deepest in the city. I think there's also some in Austin and Humboldt Park off Chicago Ave. But they're in a lot of beef, man, in the city of Chicago, and even some with other Vicelord sets, like off Chicago Avenue. The Travelers were into it with the Conservatives, and the Conservatives are probably the deepest Vicelord gang in the entire city of Chicago, just because they got sets in so many different parts of the city. But the Travelers are probably number two. Them or the Mafia Insane Vicelords. I refer to a lot of this Vicelord stuff in a lot of videos, and I don't really explain it. And a lot of people will ask me in the comment section, like, what I'm referring to or what I'm talking about. So I got another video, kind of like a more informational video, breaking down like the Vicelord history and everything. That video is coming. I pretty much have the audio done. I just have to go back over to Garfield Park and get some footage of the area for you guys so I can do that. That's not something I'm making this video at night, and that's definitely not something I'm trying to do at night. But at any rate, man, that area over by right around the conservatory, okay, like right to the west of that, not to the east, but like on the western border of the park, okay, like off of Hamlin, Pulaski, like those blocks over there, then like around Gladys, Monroe, Jackson, you find a lot of traveling Vicelord sets in that area and a lot of violence. And I'm not pinning it on them, but those guys, like I said, they're into it all over the city with a lot of different groups. And there was one particular traveling Vicelord faction that was being tracked by the government for years, and they were just committing a crazy amount of violence. And this is known as the Wicked Town traveling Vicelords. Now, this is a group that involves some older guys, and the federal trial involving these guys has begun, okay? And they're naming one of the guys as the alleged leader. Now, again, when I've covered gangs, okay, that are booked by the feds, and, the federal indictment comes down and they name a certain guy as a leader, I've told you guys again and again, take that with a grain of salt, because a lot of times they name these guys as leaders and there's not leaders. Okay, now with the older guys, that may be a little different. Okay, so I'm not saying this is totally inaccurate, but just take it with a grain of salt, man. So, and by the way, when I had made that video correcting Traveler Ross on the the most violent or deadliest gang in the city of Chicago, and I brought up the statistics and the statements by police, that correction, as I noted in the video, is a little dated. At any given moment, the neighborhood that's, in particular committing the most murders or likely to commit the most murders because they just lost a homie and are now riding for Getback. That's constantly fluctuating. This particular gang, though, you would be hard pressed to produce. I'm talking about the TVLs now, as far as all the sets that they've got, to produce any particular gang faction in the city that's involved in more bloody wars than these guys, just because of the particular neighborhood where they're located. So they're saying the Chicago media brazen, devastating acts of bloodshed earned respect in the world of the Wicked Town Street Gang, according to testimony that was heard by a federal grand jury on Monday. So in that world, they said a guy whose street name is Lil Don, and this is not Lil Don from Brick Squad, this is Lil Don from Wicked Town, quickly rose within the ranks. They said he allegedly killed 3 people in 3 years, and he soon became the leader of the West Side Gang, or its, quote, shot caller. Okay, now again, whether or not that's actually true, whether or not he could actually order other guys around, I don't know. But at any rate, Lil Don now faces racketeering conspiracy charges in a trial that kicked off on Monday and is expected to last several weeks at the Dirksen Federal Courthouse. It's also expected to give jurors a front row seat into the world of the Wicked Town traveling Vicelords and the mayhem that they allegedly caused. So also on trial is a guy whose street name is Blackie, and that's not a racist term that I'm just making up or the feds are just making. That's what the homies were calling him. Okay, they were calling him Blackie. He was quote a shooter for them. Okay, now the indictment last year connected the Wicked Town Street Gang, which is a faction of the TVLs, to 19 murders over 20 years. So these guys were active for a long time, and it tied Lil Don to 7 of those murders, and it tied Blackie to 2. Okay, so jurors got a preview during opening statements, the media's reporting of what's in store for them as the trial moves forward. They heard about daylight killings that turned communities into war zones. They saw photos of cars full of bullet holes and blood. They were also warned that some of Wicked Town's violence was caught on camera and they would have to watch. They said, you're going to see someone get shot in the chest at point blank range. About the 500 block of North Leamington Avenue. Okay, so that's where they were located, and that block, is a real hot block. It's over in the L Streets. Those L Streets, man, they're all lit. Okay, I'm just letting you guys know. Okay, so the Wicked Town conspiracy allegedly spanned 2 decades, from July 2000 to August 2020, and it would have overlapped with the conspiracies in 2 other federal trials involving Chicago street gangs, the Four Corner Hustlers, and the Hobos. And I had done a video on the Hobos real early on my old channel, and I might have to do another video on them, man, because that was a historic case. But the prosecutor told the jurors that 3 rules govern the Wicked Town Street Gang. He said, never lose or sell a Wicked Town gun, never talk to law enforcement, and use violence. Lil Don is 40 years old. He's accused in the July 2000 murder of a man named Lamont and the December 2002 murder of a man named Ernest. So these are almost 20-year-old murders. But the prosecutor said that it was Lil Don's alleged June 2003 murder of a rival gang chief named John that catapulted him to the top of the gang. So the defense attorney of Lil Don insisted that Lil Don shot him in a classic case of self-defense, and that the other shootings were also justified. So she's not trying to say that he didn't do it. She's just trying to say that he did it in self-defense. But another, quote, explosion of violence came later, according to the prosecutor. Lil Don is also tied in the indictment to the murders of a guy named Charlie in May of 2015, a guy named Malcolm in July of 2015, and a guy named James in August of 2015. So that summer, apparently, this guy was really just turning up. And a guy named Kishan in December of 2017. So the indictment accuses Blackie, who's 30 years old, in the December 2014 murder of a guy named Ron, and the January 2016 murder of a guy named Martel. So, this is going way back, man. Like all the way to the year 2000. The prosecutor said the conspiracy led to so many acts of violence. He said that, quote, I can't possibly walk you through every single one of them. Now, a lot of guys I see, on social media, especially flexing like they, like they're home free, like they're out of the woods after, they commit a murder. It's been some time. It's been, a few years, and, they're not booked, and they're I mean, they're acting like this is just going to go on forever. I told you guys, the feds play a very long game. They come in sometimes decades, like literally decades after the incident, and book you. So it's like you can never lay your head down and sleep in peace again when you're out here doing stuff like this, man. But the prosecutor said the conspiracy was leading to all this violence, and he also mentioned the gruesome execution-style murders of a guy named Donald in January of 2018, and a woman named Diane. Now, the crazy thing about this is that they were wiretapping these guys, and they caught one of them on wiretap talking real crazy about one of the murders that he had committed. Now, for everybody who's posting stuff about they did in songs on social media, these guys don't even need to be wiretapped. But for some reason, legally, I guess the social media posts and the songs don't count as much as like a recorded phone conversation, because it could be construed in court that stuff guys say on social media and in songs is just cap, even though a lot of it's not cap. But, you know, their lawyer can make that argument. A phone conversation, though, that's a little different. You know, that weighs in heavily with a jury. So this particular guy was caught talking about how he had allegedly killed a guy who was supposedly an FBI informant, and his woman that was with him, who, at least according to details that have come out so far, had nothing to do with nothing. She was just with this guy, and she had to die too. And they didn't wait until they could catch him alone. No, they got him when he was with her in this Jeep, okay, when he got her. And this is how it went down, according to him, on this wiretap. Now, like I said, this was about 4 years ago. And one of those guys had at one point been a source for the FBI, according to court records. So prosecutors said that a guy named Tiny on the street had hired a guy whose street name was Scudder and a guy whose street name was Looney to kill this pair in exchange for $5,000 and an assault rifle. So those two people were then killed inside of the Jeep that belonged to one of them in the 4700 block of Arthington Street. And one of the guys was later caught on tape bragging about the killing. So they were wiretapping these dudes. He says, I get in the back seat, shoot that dude, and he didn't say dude, he said something else, but I'm going to say the word dude, in the back of his ish, pow pow. Then he allegedly added, now check this out, his woman, and again I'm substituting another word for the word he used, he said his woman tried to bail out. I grabbed her by the back of her wig. I said, where you going? Pow pow. I hit her in her ish 2 times. Then I turned, hit him in his ish 2 more times. Pow pow. This was caught on wiretap. Okay, the guy talking about how he had killed, allegedly, these 2 people. And notice, the woman was not a crossfire death. She, according to what this guy said on the wiretap, was intentionally killed. Now, like I told you guys, man, back in the day, you know, women, kids, and all that stuff was off limits, or was supposed to be off limits. Check this out. Okay, so they're going straight at the woman. All the females out here say the kinds of things that the girls that I used to work with in the high schools would say to these guys who are gangbanging, and get all, you know, romantically worked up over these dudes, these street guys that they're really attracted to. And some of them will explicitly tell you they're attracted to them because they're in the streets. They feel like these guys are going to protect them, like these guys are, you know, I don't know, I guess just like more tough and gangster and, you know, macho than like your average educated lame. These guys are going to make you a 10 times bigger target than you would have been if you would have been with one of those educated lames. Okay, and I'm lame, but, you know, not educated, so I'm not saying this to like gas up anybody from my walk of life, because I'm facing a year in prison right now. But for everybody else, okay, for everybody that's got daughters, sisters, female cousins, just know that they're out there a lot of times hawking down basically human targets for romantic attraction. I mean, they're out here just literally like looking for a way to get smoked, because these guys, everywhere they go, literally everywhere they go. They take that safety risk with them. These are guys that sometimes they have beef in a hood on the far south side, and they get caught way out in the suburbs or up on the north side. Like, these guys get tracked, and there's countless examples of this, and these girls still get excited for these street guys, man. But she's now dead, like so many others, because of that. And so ATF agents asked Lil Don about the murders after his arrest on federal firearms charges in June of 2020. And on Monday, the prosecutor told jurors how Lil Don answered when he was asked whether one of the guys had deserved what happened to him, one of the victims. And he said, quote, yes. You know why? Because Don signed up on the dotted line. So he's saying because he talked to the feds, he deserved to die. And he said, these streets ain't giving pardons in the street. He ratted. So yes, sir, I do believe that. And this is what he told the government. So that's what's going on right now at this point with the traveling Vicelords Wicked Town faction. And I'll try to keep you guys updated on this. And again, I'm working right now. I've got the audio pretty much done on a video on the traveling Vicelords, because it's a gang that goes all the way back really to the late 1950s, early 1960s. If you look at like the precursors to it on the west side of Chicago, man. But you can see that these guys, they're not giving passes to civilians, nobody. Women that are with these guys, nobody, man. I wonder what would have happened if there had been kids there. But yeah, if you're with a guy who's, got that going on, you might as well just slit your own throat, because it's coming. Like, when it comes for him, it's going to come for you. But yeah, it's sad seeing these women up there like that, though, man. But like, the next generation is going to make the same mistake. Like, people just keep on making the same mistakes. This is your boy, Winnie C. Report. I'm out.